You guys put out a press release, and I think we have a graphic which shows us this. Essentially, what you guys are saying, you're not in favor of travel restrictions. A lot of people are probably going to push back against that at this point in time. Make your case.
Well, there's a whole history of the importance or otherwise of travel bans in fighting infectious diseases. And if you follow closely the World Health Organization guidelines, they've consistently argued and cautioned against the use of travel bans. They're not effective. They do cause significant disruption. But in fact, what's happening is more than 90 countries have introduced such travel bans. We're simply making the case that they're not effective from a public health benefit. And they create enormous knock-on economic and social disruption. The recent announcement by the US just makes the situation worse.
Yeah, and Andrew, I understand that, we've heard from medical experts saying, we haven't seen this virus being transmitted on flights, but can you still make the case that this disease is not being imported from other countries to another?
Yes, you've made the first point that in-flight transmission is not the issue. The point is that air travel or any form of transportation spreads a disease geographically around the world. But it doesn't increase the number of cases. The number of people going to catch the disease is not a function of the transportation networks of any kind. But what it does do is increase the geographic dispersion. The purpose of a travel ban, if there is a purpose, it's to buy time for health authorities to prepare for the arrival of the first cases and the first wave of infections. But regardless of whether you have air travel or not, in 1918, the flu virus, Spanish flu, spread around the world with no air travel to speak of. So we have to be very clear. So you buy time, and that time comes at a price. Now, the US has had 6 weeks to prepare for this situation. By some accounts, it's not made good use of that time. This is a belated attempt to buy more time, but it will cause enormous disruption, and not just to Europe, US, but if you read carefully what it says anybody who has been in the Schengen area in the last 14 days is not permitted to enter the United States. It doesn't matter where you're flying from. So even a passenger from Asia who's flying to the United States will not be allowed to enter the United States. In fact, will not be allowed to board if he spent any time in the Schengen area during the last 14 days. So the disruption is not confined to the transatlantic market. And when we compound that with the many other travel restrictions, we're trying to convey just how much damaging impact it's having. And not just on our industry. I'm talking about the impact on people's livelihoods and the social and economic impact more widely. And this applies to other industries. We have to balance the disruption against the public health benefit.
Speaking of disruption, Andrew, let me just interrupt you just very quickly here, because breaking news out of Korea right now. Another market's now triggered circuit breakers. That's Korea. Index dropping more than 8%.
Philippines as well. They've halted stock trading there after the index falling some 10%.
All right. Okay. We'll revisit that. But yes, more and more of these markets, and I would imagine with the Hang Seng right now, we're in a bear market. Let's bring back Andrew. Andrew Herdman. He's still with us, of course, out of KL. He's the Asia Association of the Asia Pacific Director General. There, we're talking about, Andrew, your press release yesterday calling for a reduction, if you will, in some of these travel bans as well. Very, very simple question. Do these travel bans help more than they don't?
No, not at all. They don't help. They don't protect the travelling public, and that's not even their purpose. The purpose of a travel ban is to try to buy more time for a health authority in an unaffected area to prepare for the arrival of cases. But in the United States and many other, more than 100 countries around the world, the primary means of transmission is not imported cases now. It's overwhelmingly local transmission. So cutting international travel, blanket travel bans, preventing people from travel even if they wish to travel, is not helping the public health response. The WHO does not recommend it. WHO, in fact, recommends against such measures. The fact is that the experts are not in favor of them, but governments are acting out of political expediency. So what we've called for is a rethink. We don't claim to be the experts in these matters. It's the epidemiologists and the public health experts. We're all committed to fighting the virus together, our industry included, and we will continue to cooperate as best we can.
And certainly this is a very fluid situation, and we just can kind of see more of these travel restrictions almost on a daily basis, Andrew. What are you telling your members now? How can they actually weather this storm?
Well, they're all taking steps to make sure people are safe, stepping up cleaning frequency. The air on board an aircraft is hospital-grade filters, making the cabin safe. They're similar to our friends in the airport. So making travel safe and keeping travel safe. That is being done. The other thing, of course, is the business shock of demand is collapsing, and that means cutting schedules, asking staff to take unpaid leave, and doing various other things to try and weather this storm as we've weathered many others. So the industry is resilient, it will come through it, but there will be casualties. There will be airline failures. Even in good times, this is a very competitive industry, and this is a very, very severe shock. IATA estimated $113 billion negative revenue impact, lost revenues. I think that's probably an underestimate given this ongoing situation.
And Andrew, real quickly, in terms of assistance from governments, what does the industry really need the most now?
Well, as we called for a review, a rethink on the effectiveness or otherwise of travel bans, they need to be kept under review. That's one area. There are other areas where governments can assist. The relaxation of the slot utilization rules, which deter airlines from cutting flights if they're going to lose those slots. We're pleased to see progress on that front, particularly from Europe and from the FAA and from authorities around Asia. We need other measures in terms of some form of financial support. Essentially what you need in this market is credit. And obviously we want to try and avoid layoffs wherever we can, because as and when demand recovers, we'll need the planes and we'll need the people to get everyone back flying and doing what we normally do, is to support the global economy, both in passenger terms and in cargo terms.